No, he's not paving the way. Everybody ain't gonna get this money. 7 Super Bowls, clean cut, good looking, speaks well. He deserves all the money. Whoever say he don't deserve his money, shut your face.
All right, welcome in on this Thursday, Michigan Football Live. Dennis Fithian, joined by Jim Scarcelli. We're part of the Maize and Blue Review. That was Shaq Diesel, talking about Tom Brady getting a 10-year, $375 million deal to go into the broadcast booth once he's done with football, the audio on Shaq's big podcast. So there he is. And Scar, how about that for old Tom Brady? Goes right from football. Even before he's done, he's already got a deal to be a broadcaster. Pretty nice work.
Hey, I can't wait to listen to Tom Brady. That would be, just like Tony Romo. I like listening to guys that see things and they can explain things that even guys like us that know football, they really break it down good. So I'm looking forward to that. Did I ever tell you my Shaq story, how I met Shaq?
No.
So I'm getting off the airplane. I was on a 17-hour flight coming back from South Africa, landing in Atlanta. So I'm groggy and half sleeping, and I'm going to the bathroom, and I walk into the bathroom, and I'm taking a little whiz there at the urinal, half asleep, and I see this big shadow just block out the light from the room there, and here comes Shaq posting up right next to me at the urinal, and that is the biggest human being I've ever seen. I looked at him. You don't have much conversation there, but I did see him. I didn't shake his hand or nothing, but that was my time of standing next to Shaq, Big Shaq O'Neal. I love the guy. I read his book. I think he's great. I think he has good messages for the youth, and he's a good role model.
Yeah, and he's not just 7'1", he's all of whatever 300 and built. That's the thing. I just watched him last night. He was, they were talking about Bob Lanier, the former Piston who had passed away, and Shaq was talking about how he had learned, like, here's Bob Lanier, all-star, is going to be a Hall of Famer, and how he was just, the nicest guy in the world, humble, everything. Shaq said, I'm going to be like Bob Lanier, and he has been like that. I mean, you're 7'1" and 400 pounds, man. You can be. And he did terrorize opponents, but he seemed to have a little bit of a gentle spirit to him. Talking about Shaq.
Yeah, I like him. I just think he's got a good message, man. You could tell he was raised good. He's a good role model for young athletes, I think.
Yeah, I think comes out of a military family.
Yeah.
That probably has something to do with it. Well, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to get to some quarterback rankings. We'll also talk about some football training, how it's changed and how it's maybe stayed the same over the years. Scar is going to be a good person to touch base on this because he played football from the early 80s and then at Michigan and then went into coaching, and you have to evolve in coaching. Can't just roll out some tackling dummies here in just a few years ago if you wanted to be competitive in the high school ranks. So we'll see what Scar has to say about that, and also the big story there of what if the Big Ten eliminated the divisions. So we've got some things to talk about. But before we go any further, let me tell you about our new sponsor. Hey, folks, Dennis Fithian, and support for the Maize and Blue Review is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. And if you've ever heard someone ask if the curtains match the rug, in this broadcaster's case, I can tell you, yes, they do. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code TMBR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job at manscaped.com. And Scar, what did you think of the Manscaped bundle that you got in the mail?
Oh, it's outstanding, Danny. I had a little cheap version. I brought a different company, different brand I've been using for a few years. I got this and this thing. You get what you pay for. It's great. It's outstanding. It's a great setup, man. Different levels of blades. Go get yourself one.
I like it. All right. So what about this big story? And the ACC, they put a model out. They just had their spring meetings, and so they start talking a little football stuff, and they're talking about protecting 3 rivalries and then getting into a pod system, a 5-5. I think they talked about it, but there's no secret when you look at since they used to have, what was it, Scar, the leaders and legends, right? Then they scrapped that. Then they went to East and West. Since they have gone to East and West, the East has won it every time, right? So, the Big Ten, they love the money that it makes, but they would also like a more attractive game. So what do you think about eliminating the divisions?
Listen, every objective for every coach is always, the number one objective is to win your league championship, okay? Win a league championship. So I'm going to tell you who loves that idea right off the bat. I can tell you 3 teams that love it: Indiana, Rutgers, and Maryland. They love it because now they might not have to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. So those 3 guys are going to love that kind of talk. There's 7 other teams that aren't going to like that kind of talk. Okay, and that's all those guys in the West Division. Because there's 2 teams nobody wants to play. Okay, you might put Penn State in that bunch, but when Michigan really, and we are taking that step to get into there, being like an Ohio State, there's 2 teams nobody wants to play.
Who are those 2 teams?
That's Michigan and Ohio State. Nobody wants to play them. So when you are you still going to have the championship game? I got thoughts on that. I'm not big on that. You play the whole year. What do you play the whole year for? But I think Michigan would be, at a little bit of a disadvantage if we got to play Ohio State every year. And then now, okay, if we win that game, does that mean we got to potentially play them again the next week?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that because that's a disadvantage. Again, I'm looking at myself as the coach. I want to put a championship ring on my player's finger. And does that mean I got to beat Ohio State twice? I don't know if that's fair. Where some of these other guys aren't playing. Michigan State won championships a couple of years ago when they had those leaders and legends. They didn't play Ohio State on, I think, 2 of those championship runs. That's a joke as far as that's not fair. That's not fair to some of these to that kind of deal. Are we going to play 8 games like the SEC? But there's a lot of questions there that I see that Michigan would have somewhat of a disadvantage if they mandate that we play that game,
well, they are going to mandate, like, if in any way that you go about it, whenever they're going to have the conversation, because of the money that it generates and the interest in the ratings, there's no question that Michigan, Ohio State are going to play every year. So if you were trying to do it fair, you would just, continue to go round robin, and Michigan and Ohio State wouldn't play necessarily every year, but you can guarantee that they're going to have that one. You can also guarantee that Michigan's going to play Michigan State, but you're right about the Spartans. And anyway, you cook it up, Michigan State, Michigan State's not playing Ohio State every year, maybe every other year. And so that will be an advantage to Michigan State. But if you're Michigan, Scar, you just said it, there's nobody, if it's true that, the Wisconsin might say, what are you guys talking about? Maybe in the 70s or 80s, but not now. But if what you're saying is true and, you're Michigan and nobody wants to play you, you have to say, hey, we're going to play Ohio State every year. We're playing Michigan State every year. These are the rules. We know what it's about. Let's go after it.
Yeah, I got no problem with it if there's no championship game.
No, well, there's going to be a championship game. Yeah. That's a big moneymaker. It's just like, I don't really like the non-conference games. I don't mind like one little warm-up game against like my alma mater, Eastern, but do I like to see SMU, UNLV, some of these Fresno State, some of these teams that Michigan's going to bring in this year? Do I think, I can handle Colorado State, but do I want to see Hawaii and UConn? I don't. But Michigan makes a ton of money, and they just want to get automatic wins, and they want the home dates for the cash. So what am I going to do? Can I cry about it every year? I can cry about it every year. And the Big Ten, they want that championship game. They want to put the most attractive game that they can in that slot. They have not been attractive games. So we can complain about it and say, hey, Michigan's going to get the short end of the stick. State's going to luck into a couple. And you just got to go out there and beat Michigan State all the time. And you got to win your share against Ohio State. And you know what? If you don't like the rules over the next few years, they could just change it again. Like, you think these things are set in stone, but look at it. They're flipping the schedule left and right all the time.
Yeah, another thing though, if obviously people want to win your league championship, number one, but also you want to win the national championship. You want to be in the Final Four. Okay, the SEC is playing 8 games. They got that lamb chop before their rival. They all have that open lamb chop game before they play their 12th game. The Big Ten is playing 9. We're playing that extra game is a big factor in the ratings. That's one more opportunity to have a loss on your schedule. And the SEC isn't playing. They're playing 8 games. So some of that stuff has to be meshed with the other conferences. But listen, I get it. I get the it would be frustrating for me because I would hate to see my team, have to play a way more demanding schedule year in, year out and not put a ring on their finger. And then to see some guy at East Lansing avoid some of these people and put a ring on their finger. So that would I'm just giving it from a coach's player perspective. I think if they could somehow find a way, maybe every 2 years, to rank the teams by a PowerPoint system and then maybe balance out, okay, if you do get Ohio State every year, then you get more of the lamb chops also, or the lower power rated teams. If they could somehow find a way to balance out, everybody's schedule from a PowerPoint, ratings, which could be fairly accurate. Maybe you could accept it, if that makes any sense to you.
It does. Something that would be interesting to see how they would weight that out in a point system and all of that. I get it. I like attractive games. As much as you say you just want, the team to win and everything. I like, last year that Washington was there. That was a big game. When it's Notre Dame, I like that. I would rather see the Washingtons and Notre Dames. They've got Texas and Oklahoma in the future. I like having that rather than, another UConn and Hawaii. I hear you from a coaching standpoint, athletic director, all these different things, player perspective, but I know going to those games when you're out there tailgating, a big difference if Michigan's playing Notre Dame and if they're playing Hawaii, like they're going to
Trust me, I know. Listen, when I played, our non-league games were Miami, Florida, Notre Dame.
Nice.
That's. But listen, I don't know. I don't know how that conversation with Jim and Ward prior to these 3 games we got this because we had I think we had Virginia Tech or somebody and they got them off the schedule. And I don't know if Jim felt or Ward felt they needed to try to get some more confidence and build their, get some more wins, maybe bolt, whatever. I don't know how that decision was made, but I'm with you, Denny. I'd like to see at least one barn burner. I'd much rather, especially with the team we got this year. This is the team I want to go to Texas with. I want to go to Oklahoma with the quarterback back. And, that's when you want to play a good, tough non-league game when you have the kind of people we got coming back. I'm totally with you. I like the idea of 2 lamb chops and 1 tough one because you want your young guys to play in the preseason, and they're not going to get to play that much if if you're playing Notre Dame and or Texas and that kind of thing. But I'm totally with you on that. I like this. I don't like the schedule at all. 3 lamb chops. I don't like it.
Yeah, I know, coaches. I know. Yeah, I talked to Lloyd Carr about it, and he would say things like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You go over there and play 3 easy ones. Everybody's talking about how it's Cupcake City. Your fans are crying about how they have to pay the money for the tickets, and everybody's gone by halftime out of the tailgates. But then if you schedule a tough opponent, you lose it. Everybody wants you fired. So, I'm sure Harbaugh and Manuel's approach is different. Jim Harbaugh is probably like, look, any way it goes, we got to win all of our games. So give us the easiest possible road that you can to have it. I know from a fan's perspective, sometimes you say, I want to play the toughest games all the way through. So there's no doubt. But in the end, if you end up winning a championship, how many people are going back and saying, oh, you guys had a super easy schedule? And it's about just winning it at the end. So, being able to finesse that and once in a while, get some big time games in there, get him on neutral sites. Like Nick Saban's not playing any home and home. He'll play a non-conference game against a Power 5 at a neutral site, but he's not going like he's not coming to Ann Arbor. He's not, he's not.
If I was coaching, I'd want to have 2 lamb chops and then one real tough one. When I was playing, Bo used to he liked Notre Dame. He liked it on the schedule because you don't really know where you are as a team until you really get tested sometimes, and you're not going to always find that out against some of these softer teams. So, that's what I remember him saying about Notre Dame. You find out where you are. You find out real quick. So, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and then Notre Dame would pull. It's nice in the off season to say, hey, we don't have time to be screwing around. You got Notre Dame coming up on September the 3rd. You get your attention a lot easier.
Right.
Harbaugh's in there saying, we got to be ready for Colorado State September 3rd. But that Notre Dame would always slide and put an easy opponent in front of Michigan. So there was always that little, one-upsmanship, gamesmanship, going on there that's continued all the way through. So I don't know if we sorted any of that. The best part, you saying that a weighted system, maybe to ease it up for teams like Michigan year by year. If you're, if you have to play Ohio State, and then if you miss it, maybe it can toughen it up for a team like Michigan State. There's got to be a formula out there. There'll be some complaints all the way through, but
Vinny, let me just tell you though, I guarantee you, every single Big Ten team in the country, as soon as they get their schedule, the first team they're looking at is where's Ohio State. That's the first game everybody's looking at is Ohio State on my schedule. And if they're not, they just breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, I'm just telling you how it works.
I know what you're saying, and if you're Michigan, you're going to play them every year. If you're Penn State, should you feel like it's a compliment, that you have to play the juggernaut? You're the juggernaut. You want to be the best. So no, I get that. I think it's going to happen. The games have been non-interesting. I loved last year's game. A nice big fat blowout, 42-3. I'll take that every year. But I think everybody else that was watching that probably tuned out of Michigan Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, and it's like that every year. It's the East just screaming them, so they want to change it up. It's going to happen.
We'll see, Denny.
All right, well, let's move on here. He's giving me the we'll see. Let's see about quarterback rankings here. And Scar's Big 4, Big Ten quarterback rankings. And you said you're using smart, accurate, tough, and mobile as your guide. Is that right?
For me, those are the guys I don't want to face. More than anything, I don't want to face a smart, accurate, mobile. That's the smart and accurate. Those are the top 2, and then that's what I don't want to face. That's what I want for my quarterback, and from having as a player and then having coach. Those are the characteristics that are important to me. And I think there's some things that are somewhat of a misconception. And I actually made my little list. I got 3 different tiers in the Big Ten because I don't have C.J. Stroud as such a dominant player. Because Danny, you got to understand, who's he throwing to? How big are those windows? We talked about this. Look at the receivers he threw to this past year. Did the guy at Nebraska have the same thing? Did the guy at Maryland have the same kind of huge windows that C.J. Stroud had? If you put C.J. Stroud, plug him in at Rutgers, is he going to be that kind of a dominant quarterback? I don't know. Ohio State had those great receivers. I think I told you that story, how Michigan was recruiting Jermaine Gonzalez, the big quarterback from Orchard Lake St. Mary, and I had just played him in the playoffs. And Bo was done coaching, but he asked me, how good is this Gonzalez kid? I said, Coach, I don't know, because every time he throws to a receiver, the guy's wide open. He had the Purdue kid was at the tight end. He had a receiver went to Stanford. He had a Maurice Seawright was the higher rated kid than Charles Rogers. Anyway, my point is my top 5 in the Big Ten. Here they are. Here's my top 5. The kid at OSU, Maryland, Michigan State, Rutgers, and U of M. and it's really close with all those guys. The kid at Rutgers is an athlete. He can run, he can throw. Michigan State kid can run and throw. The Maryland kid, he can run and throw. The Ohio State kid can run and throw. We got the smartest, most accurate kid in the Big Ten, our kid. He's the smartest, and he's the most accurate, our quarterback. The next four on my the next tier is the Wisconsin kid, the Purdue kid. The Minnesota and the Penn State kid are both guys that can run, and they're good players. They could actually be in my top tier. When I further looked at it, the kid at Penn State he's a kid that can move, and the Minnesota kid's a 6-year kid. He's accurate. The three bottom guys I have are the Illinois, Iowa, and Northwestern guys. Iowa's guys can't move. They're somewhat accurate, and they're not very mobile. So I threw mine out there, but I just think it's important that you got to understand who are the receivers the guy's throwing to.
Well, fair enough. But when you put them in the tiers, were you ranking them there because the way that you read them off, one could believe that you put Cade McNamara in front of C.J. Stroud. Given the chance, would you say, hey, I would rather have Cade McNamara, I'd rather have C.J. Stroud as my quarterback? You got them in tiers, but if you had to rank them, how would you rank those two?
Okay, so ask the question like this, Denny. Let's take Rutgers offensive talent. And you got to plug a quarterback in there, and which one would you rather not face? Okay, I'm Michigan, and I got to face Rutgers offensive talent. Would I rather face them with Cade McNamara as the quarterback or C.J. Stroud as the quarterback? And if you ask me that question, it's a tough decision. It's not an easy decision because he doesn't have those great receivers with that Rutgers talent over there, C.J. Stroud, like he has at Ohio State. And Cade McNamara, he might not have that great running game like he has at Michigan. So that decision is not a real easy decision. Cade McNamara is accurate as hell. I don't want to face him because he's so damn accurate. We don't know how accurate CJ is because he's throwing to these huge windows. So to answer the question, I think those guys are really, really close. I know the pro, they got him picked, real high, this CJ Stroud kid, but I don't know. Just like the USC quarterbacks. I used to say this about the USC quarterbacks years ago, because many of them have done real good in the pros. Some of them did okay, because I think they had such great receivers. Some of those USC teams, you know what I mean? So if someone really pressed me to name, I'm going to have McNamara and CJ Stroud as my top two. Really, you can intermix them, and then there's like 5 guys that are like battling it out for number 3, and that would be those other guys I mentioned. But honestly, answering that question, you give Rutgers talent with Cade McNamara or C.J. Stroud. That's how you got to answer that question, and it's a really tough question to answer.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to run around with any Ohio State banner. I've seen Stroud. I get what you're saying. It reminds me of going back and arguing about Joe Montana back in the days. Like, that guy had Dwight Clark and Jerry Rice, and I was like, well, he's pretty good. He still is pretty good. But that's always been a very good argument for Tom Brady, because for the longest time, you looked at some of his wide receivers that he had there with the Patriots, and yeah, later on he had Gronk and stuff, but he was throwing a bunch of dudes that nobody had ever heard of, and you have a hard time naming now. So Brady was able to do it with kind of obscure guys. But normally what follows with quarterbacks, definitely in the pros and probably in college, when you talk about all the great quarterbacks in the pros, normally you start talking about Hall of Fame wide receivers that go right along with it.
That's right. I was having a discussion at the poker table the other day talking about the great quarterbacks, and they're all talking about, who you talking about, Dan Marino and Brady. I said, what about, and they're talking about stats, the importance of stats. I said, well, what about Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson doesn't have any kind of passing stats, but that's one of the last guys in the NFL I want to face. I don't want to face Lamar Jackson in that offense and all the things they do with him, because those are headaches. Those are problems. He does things that Tom Brady could never do in a million years. They're different kind of threats. They're different problems. But both of them give you serious problems defending Tom Brady in the Buccaneers or Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. To try to rank those two guys. You got to ask the defensive coordinators who have to stop them. Those are the guys you got to ask because they both give you problems. Lamar with the quarterback keep and all the inside run stuff they do with him, and he's a pretty good passer. So it's a lot of ways to evaluate quarterbacks.
Scar, where you're using your conversation at the poker table strategically, where you're thinking about putting somebody all in, and then you said Lamar Jackson, and then you double barreled them. You came over the top with some chips after they re-raised you. You three bet them and talking about.
Benny, you try to use the mind, get them off their game, man. Get them upset, get them thinking something different, man. Try to size you up.
Well, if you were over there and I was telling you how great Joe Montana was, and then all of a sudden you re-raised me talking Lamar Jackson, I'd be like, whoa, he's got a running game on me. I'm out. All right, it was good stuff. I like it. If you're just gonna have an opinion of everybody else. What fun would that be? I liked it. So good stuff. All right, we move to the evolution of training, diet, weightlifting, and everything else. Scar, you have been involved in football. So what are we saying here? If you go back to the high school, but into college, where at the very highest level, where diet and training and training techniques, and then you get into high school where you got to be on the cutting edge if you want to have success. So are there some things that over the years have really changed to give teams the edge? I remember when I worked in Ann Arbor, Michigan used to, the offensive linemen all had to wear those braces on their knees, and then they all talk about the specific kind of training, I don't know, hit training that they were using, and there's always all kinds of arguments and everything else. And then who was the guy under Rich Rod? Barwis.
Yeah.
I'm reading a story about him one time in ESPN magazine. He's got the guys on those workout balls with 45-pound plates over their heads, and they're on their knees jumping from physio ball to physio ball. And he's like, yeah, this is what you got to get done. So, you've seen all of that. Let's start. What about from a weightlifting perspective over the years? How's it changed?
I was actually right when the strength training, where teams started to get strength coaches. Mike Gittleson was hired late 70s. Schembechler was the first guy was at Nebraska. Gittleson was the second one. Bo had the vision, brought him in the late 70s to actually have a strength coach. And so I was the early on with it, but Mike had everything covered, man. He understood the importance of agility and doing agility drills and things to, improve your coordination and sprinting and ways to improve your sprinting and blend that in as your conditioning, distance running, strength training, all different types of strength training and flexibility. Mike understood all of that. We were doing all those things. We had all kinds of different machines, different techniques, different philosophies in the weight room. We had, a lot of good stuff. Mike, at that time, he wasn't big into a lot of the Olympic lifts. And you got to understand this too, Denny, about strength coaches. If you go interview 300 strength coaches right now, college football strength coaches in America, basketball coaches, strength coaches, 1,000 of them, you will get 1,000 different philosophies. They'll be similar in a lot of ways, but there will be something about every one of them that's different. So there's not a consistent say, this is what you got to do to prepare a football player, or this is what you do to prepare a basketball player. So you're going to have different opinions there. Mike wasn't big in Olympic lifts. A lot of guys are. The one thing I'm seeing that I know is a definite change in the years is you mentioned Barwis. I met Barwis when he was with Rich Rod. The importance of the core, the midsection. We did, obviously you work your upper body, you work your chest, your shoulders. You want that strong to play football. You want your legs strong. But they understood years, maybe 20 years ago or so, how important the core, the midsection, and there was more emphasis on developing that and doing a lot of exercises that are ground-based. That's one of the changes too, like doing the deadlifts. There was more emphasis on that. If you ask a lot of the strength coaches now, there's more ground-based movements. Okay.
When you said Olympic, that is deadlifts and lifting just the bar over your head. Is that Olympic? All right.
Those are Olympic. Yeah, you got your deadlift, your clean. You know, Mike Gittleson wasn't into a lot of that stuff. He had his philosophies. You know, a lot of guys are believers in that stuff. Some of that stuff is you know, it could be dangerous if a guy doesn't know what he's doing. But college guys should not have any trouble with it. But a lot of coaches are believers. You have, you know, you got differences of opinions there on some of the things. I see. I think some of the good changes that I think you're seeing. If you look at the weights of the guys when I played, you know, the average offensive lineman, the average defensive lineman, they were smaller. I don't know that they were any bigger or better athletes now, but they're just there's a more of an emphasis on keeping your weight, keeping your size, keeping your strength. You know, we used to go through a 3-hour practice where you were just flat out dead, and then they asked you to go and work out, have a little fit, you know, and you just have nothing left. And I think the coaches have gotten smarter with minimizing the length of practice. And then if you're going to ask a guy to lift and strength train, maybe do it before, but they get the strength training in, they minimize the hours of practice. I think they do a much better job, Denny, in general, of reducing the demands of the physical demands of practice. And then if you're still going to try to ask a guy to maintain his strength, you know, you can't beat him up. You can't beat him up for 3 hours in practice.
That's right. I remember it was probably last year at this time, they came out with Aiden Hutchinson, and he had this, what do they call it? You know, Turkish lift or something. It was basically a universal bar, and I forget how much weight he had on it, but he didn't have the collars, and he had to like get down on the ground and like lift this thing up and then put it back down. And that's an example of that core strength. That is an amazing feat to see him do that. That takes strength. But you know, like when I played, Danny, I started the year. I always start around 230. By the time I played the Buckeyes, I was 220 pounds because of the demands of practice, and you weren't able to maintain your weight. We had good food. You know, we had training table back then. And that's a little different now. Training table, when I played, you could only have training table during the season and during spring football, on the days you had spring football practice. You didn't have it in that, you know, that time in between, you know, the season ending and spring football. These guys have training table year round. They have it in the building, which is a lot better. So they're eating, you know, better food. I think the big thing now too, though, is there's just a bigger emphasis on, you know, eating more healthier foods. You know, we had healthy food, but we weren't told, you know, hey, eat you know, maybe more vegetables than the macaroni and cheese. We had all the real healthy stuff. I think the coaches do a better job of teaching those things to players. And I think, you know, the little things like Harbaugh calls it the car wash. You know, when they're done with practice, they do things to recover the body with the ice tanks. They walk through that thing and, you know, and they get massage. They do the massage, little things to, you know, to bounce your legs back from the demands of practice in games. Fascinating stuff. So that's the weightlifting. And then the specific training, you know, a lot of 7-on-7s you see for the receivers and the quarterbacks. I don't know, like, let me watch as you talk about that. Michigan just a couple of days ago, they just put out a little like 60-second hype film, but I know you went down there, and in some of the stuff, maybe you can, I don't know if we'll have let's just play it here and just see what it ends up looking like. Scar, this is from Michigan, and here they are working out. What about that hill? Did you see that hill, Scar?
Yeah, I see it.
But I turned it down. I can't turn. Can I hear you now? No. I turned that down. I turned you down. So we'll just have to keep that out. We'll just watch it through here. And they got some punching stuff here. And I don't see the old blocking sleds, but I did see that ramp. All right. I did see that ramp there. All right, Scar, we've got you back.
You know, Danny, I like the stuff that everything I saw there, though, they've been doing for a long time. Different forms. The martial arts, the punching, that stuff has been around a long time, blended in with football players. They've been doing it a long time. The punching, the kicking. Mike didn't have us do it, but we did some yoga. We did some Pilates type stuff. I tell you, the one thing I saw there, it's been around over 100 years. You saw the guys pushing that sled on the turf. Fielding Yost had a big wooden sled. I got video of it. I had my woodshop guy make the same darn sled. And it's a coach stands on it and you push it and it really works the legs and the core and you're pushing that thing and you get a big fat coach sitting on that sled and the coach stands on that sled and you push that guy around and it's tough. But all those other movements in there, you know, they've been around. And they got all the top equipment, but it's nothing really different than the things we did. But I like how he's blending it in. You know, he's got the punching into the workout. He's got the sled blended in with the bench press or something. You know, all those things it makes the workout, you know, creative and it's not a monotonous thing. And I met the coach there, Ben Herbert, and yeah, he's a sharp guy, and that's all part of being a good strength coach is making the stuff, you know, so that the players are excited when they come in there. But the diet is better. The protein bars. I go down to the Michigan's weight room in the facility. They got all that. They understood the importance of as soon as you get done lifting, you know, a kid should have a protein bar in them. They got milkshakes and the different protein powder drinks down there for the kids. So those are little things, but they matter because when I was playing, you know, we'd go through a workout and then you might not get then you have to go up to South Quad to get your training table, or you might not get home. And now you got food in you right away. So that those little things, they matter, and they got money for them now. And they know that you got to feed the body right away after you stress it like that. But
good stuff. So there you go. From weightlifting, diet, football specific, I think we covered it, went through it.
Yeah, good stuff, man. We got a good strength coach, but it's changed, but probably not as much as people think.
All right, we want to remind people here to join up at the Maize and Blue Review. Get somebody in your life. Maybe you're the big Michigan fan. Hook yourself up. Go to michigan.rivals.com. You can head to the posting board, the Den. There's stories every day. You like recruiting, that is covered from A to Z. Every little move, all the things that like Scar and I talk about every week, those things are constantly debated and bandied back and forth all day and all night long. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe there and the various other social media platforms, including TikTok, which I'm running now. And I've already posted 6 videos, and I'm very proud of each and every one of them.
Yeah, so just fired up watching Jordan Poole and having a pool party out there in San Francisco. He's doing great, and Michigan guys, we're all watching him and always rooting for the Michigan guys.
Yeah, I have all the Michigan games from last year on my DVR, and I'm looking forward to going back and rewatching these games. But you just reminded me, like every night right now, you like the NBA and you like the NHL playoffs. I mean, these things are the first round of the NHL playoffs, the second round, that game of the Celtics and Bucks last night was awesome. And yeah, Poole's now going to get into a game 6 here. Who knows? He could be in the NBA finals, and it could be the Heat. You could have Duncan Robinson on one side, who've got a little bit out there for Miami, and you could have Jordan Poole. I guess if you're a Michigan fan, that's what you'd want to see. Golden State in Miami, right?
It's great to see, man. That's what we want. All that stuff helps recruiting, the ability to shoot the basketball. If those two guys tell you anything, you got to be able to shoot the basketball, and you can make a lot of money if you can.
What if Tom Brady's no good up in the booth, Scarf? Did you ever think about that? Like, I thought about that. Like, I like watching, Peyton Manning did his cast with his brother, and I thought it was fabulous. They had Tom Brady out there. I've heard Tom Brady interviewed over the years, Jim Gray I've never sat there and been like, ooh, he's such a great interview. Now he's funny and, he's a little bit, he's a good looking guy. So, but it's not a sure thing. Like Tony Romo wasn't the greatest quarterback. He's really good at describing the game and everything. And he's into it. He plays well and he understands how to talk in those windows. We don't know if Tom Brady is going to be good at that. Now, you'd say, hey, Troy Aikman's not all that good. And look at, he's been doing it for all those years. But I don't know, there's a little bit. Tom probably will, jump right in there and have success. But what if he's not any good? Like Joe Montana wasn't a very good broadcaster. Wayne Gretzky's the greatest hockey player. He wasn't all that great of a broadcaster. Like, so you could put I'm talking about the best of the best. Hey, these guys got big names. There's nobody that can say anything about, hey, he's done. Michael Jordan would not have been a great broadcaster. You put him on there with Shaq and all those guys. It would have been great. Gretzky, not great. Like, so, Tom Brady, big name and everything else, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just about 70% sure that he's going to be really good at it.
Yeah, hey, you don't know, Danny. I've done it. You've done it, and we've done some broadcasting, and you don't know. I want a guy who can really explain, who understands it. I want a guy that can tell great stories. Brady will have a bunch of stories. I want a guy that can really dissect plays, what's going on there, and be funny too. Maybe get us laughing. I mean, the blueprint for the greatest football analyst ever, John Madden, bless his heart. That's the guy we should be trying to find a guy like that, in my opinion. Because put Rex Ryan in the booth. That's a guy I've been wanting to see. I like Rex. I want a guy that can explain, give us the former player, the coach's perspective, diagram. John Gruden was good in my eyes too, but hopefully Brady will be good. I don't think he'll be one of them guys that's promoting himself like some of those former quarterbacks do. I don't like hearing those quarterbacks. They want to talk about how great they were. I don't see Brady being one of those guys. I think he's going to explain things, probably maybe even a little bit too humble. Might be a problem. But we'll see.
Okay. We're rooting for him.
Yeah, always rooting for him. He's Michigan.
All right. We're rooting for you too, Scar. Great job today. We'll talk with you again next week.
Go Blue!